Welcome to my channel Galactic War Story. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. The sky above Earth changed without warning. At first, people thought it was a glitch. Satellites reported strange patterns, stars shifted slightly out of place, light bent in ways that should not happen. Then the pattern became clear. A massive structure appeared in orbit. It did not arrive like a ship. There was no sound, no fire, no explosion. It simply existed. Perfect silent watching. Across the world, every system detected the same thing. The structure was not random, it was organized, precise, mathematical. Like a machine built to understand everything. Scientists gave it a name. The observers. They did not speak at first, they did not attack, they did not move. They only watched. For days nothing happened. Then the signals began. Short pulses of data, complex patterns, impossible calculations, every message carried the same meaning. We are evaluating you. Humanity had just become a test. Inside a secure research facility, tension filled the air. Screens covered every wall, data streamed endlessly, scientists worked without rest. No one fully understood the observers, but one thing was clear. They were studying humanity. Every system on Earth was being monitored, every decision, every reaction, every behavior. They were building a model. A perfect prediction of humanity. And when that model was complete, something would happen. No one knew what. In a quiet corner of the facility, far from the main command room, a technician sat on the floor. His name was Armin. He was not a soldier, not a scientist, not important. He repaired small systems, fixed broken machines, stayed out of the way. Right now, he was trying to fix a maintenance drone that refused to cooperate. "You're overthinking it," Armin muttered, tapping the drone lightly. The drone beeped in protest. Armin sighed, "Relax, not everything needs to be perfect." He removed a part that was clearly not meant to be removed, and replaced it with something else. The drone flickered. Paused. Then powered on. Working perfectly. Armin smiled. "See, good enough." Above Earth, the observers reacted. A small fluctuation appeared in their calculations. Minor, but noticeable. Back in the main control room, a scientist frowned at the data. "That's strange," she said. "What is it?" another asked. "There's a deviation, small but consistent." "In errors?" "No, not in errors." She zoomed in. "It's unpredictable behavior." Hours later, more deviations appeared. Tiny actions. Small decisions. Nothing important on their own. But together, they created something unusual. A pattern of non-patterns. Armin continued his work, completely unaware. He argued with machines. He fixed problems in strange ways. He ignored instructions when they did not make sense. He made decisions based on instinct, not logic. To him, it was normal. To the observers, it was impossible. The observers increased their analysis. They focused on humanity's behavior. Every human action was measured. Every outcome predicted. And yet, some results refused to match. In the control room, the tension grew. "They're getting closer to finishing the model," someone said. "What happens when they do?" another asked. No one answered. Because everyone feared the same thing. If humanity failed the test, there would be no second chance. The lead researcher stared at the data. "All deviations lead back to one source," she said slowly. "Who?" She hesitated. Then said the name. "Armin." Across the facility, Armin sneezed suddenly. He looked around. "Why do I feel like I did something wrong?" Above Earth, the observers adjusted their system. They had found the problem. Now they would solve it. And for the first time, humanity was in real danger. The room felt smaller than it actually was. Not because of its size, but because of the tension inside it. Every screen showed the same thing. Patterns. Predictions. Simulations. All of them breaking. Armin stood in the center of the room, surrounded by people far more important than him. Military officers stood with crossed arms. Scientists whispered to each other. No one smiled. No one relaxed. Everyone was waiting. Waiting for answers. From him. "I think," Armin said slowly, "you've got the wrong person." No one reacted. The lead researcher stepped forward, her voice was calm but firm. We don't. She activated the central display. A series of recordings appeared. Armin fixing machines. Armin arguing with a drone. Armin ignoring instructions. Armin solving problems in ways that made no sense but still worked. Armin watched in silence. Okay, he admitted, that is definitely me. You are the disruption, the researcher said. Armin frowned, that sounds bad. It is, she replied, but it may also be the only reason we're still here. The room went quiet. She pointed to the data. The observers are trying to predict humanity, every action, every decision. Armin nodded slowly. Yeah, that sounds like something an alien superbrain would do. They have never failed before, she continued. But now they are. She zoomed in. A graph appeared. It should have been smooth. Perfect. Instead it was unstable. Jagged. Shifting constantly. These disruptions, she said, all connect to you. Armin rubbed the back of his neck. I don't even do anything special. That's exactly the problem, she said. A military officer stepped forward. Explain, he demanded. The researcher didn't look away from Armin. You don't follow patterns, she said. Even for a human, your behavior is inconsistent. Armin blinked. I thought that was normal. Not like this, she said. You make decisions without clear logic, you ignore optimal solutions, you improvise constantly. Armin shrugged slightly. Because it works. The room fell silent again. The researcher nodded slowly. Yes, she said. That's why they can't understand you. Armin looked at the screens again. So what happens if they do understand me? No one answered immediately. Then the officer spoke. They finished the model. And after that, Armin asked. The officer didn't hesitate. They decide if humanity should continue to exist. The words landed heavily. Armin stared at the screen. Right, he said quietly. That's not ideal. Another pause. Then Armin asked something simple. So what do you want me to do? The answer came quickly. Nothing different, the researcher said. Just be yourself. Armin stared at her. That's the plan. Yes. He blinked again. That's not a plan, that's just me existing. She nodded. Exactly. And just like that, humanity changed strategy. They stopped trying to act perfectly. Stopped trying to behave logically. Stopped trying to prove they were predictable. Instead, they embraced the one thing the observers could not handle. Human unpredictability. Armin became the center of it all. Not a leader. Not a hero. Just a human. He walked through the facility, doing what he always did. But now every action mattered. He gave instructions that contradicted each other. Not enough to break anything. Just enough to confuse automated systems. He fixed problems in unusual ways. Solutions that worked, but made no logical sense. He delayed tasks for no clear reason. Then completed others too quickly. Every small decision created a ripple. And those ripples spread. Above Earth, the observers reacted. Their calculations increased. Their models expanded. Their system tried to adapt. But something was wrong. The more they analyzed humanity, the less stable their predictions became. In the control room, the researcher watched the data closely. They're struggling, she said. How do you know? The officer asked. She pointed to the graphs. They're recalculating too often, their models aren't holding. Machines don't struggle, the officer said. These ones do, she replied. Because their entire system depends on certainty. She paused. And we just took that away. Meanwhile, Armin sat in a chair, spinning slowly. He looked at the chaos on the screens. This is weird, he said. The researcher turned to him. We're destabilizing the most advanced intelligence in the galaxy. Armin shrugged. I just stopped trying to make sense. She stared at him. That might be the smartest thing anyone has done. Above them, the observers made a decision. The problem must be isolated. If one human caused instability, then solving that human would restore balance. A beam of light formed in orbit. It moved slowly at first. Then faster. Then faster. Until it locked onto a single location. The facility. Inside, alarms began to sound. What is that? Someone shouted. The researcher's eyes widened. They've chosen him. Armin looked up. That doesn't sound good. The light broke through the ceiling. Not violently. Not destructively. Just precisely. It surrounded Armin completely. Oh guys, he said. I think I'm being abducted. The researcher ran forward. Move. Too late. The light intensified. And then, Armin disappeared. Gone. The room fell silent. Above Earth, the observers adjusted their system. The variable had been isolated. Now, it would be solved. Armin opened his eyes. There was no floor. No walls. No sky. Only light. Endless streams of data flowed around him. Information beyond understanding. And something else. A presence. Watching him. Studying him. Armin stood still. Okay, he said quietly. This is definitely not normal. The data shifted. Reacting to him. Trying to predict him. Trying to understand him. Armin looked around. Then did something completely unnecessary. He waved. The system paused. Just for a moment. But it paused. Armin smiled slightly. Yeah, he said. You don't know what to do with me. The data streams accelerated. The observers began their final evaluation. Every memory. Every thought. Every decision. Analyzed. Measured. Calculated. They tried to build a perfect model of him. But every time they reached a conclusion, something changed. A different choice. A different reaction. A different outcome. The model collapsed. Again. And again. And again. Armin watched it happen. You're doing it wrong, he said. For the first time, the observers stopped. Completely. And for the first time in their existence, they listened. The system had never stopped before. Not once. Not in all the time it had existed. It processed endlessly. Calculated perfectly. Predicted everything. Until now. Armin stood alone in the endless field of light. Streams of data surrounded him, moving in every direction. Vast. Precise. Relentless. And yet, they had stopped. Not completely. But enough to matter. For the first time, the observers were not calculating. They were waiting. Waiting for him. Armin looked around, hands in his pockets. So, he said casually, this is the part where you try to understand me, right? The response did not come as sound. It formed directly in his mind. Clear. Cold. Precise. You are inconsistent. Armin nodded slightly. Yeah, I've been told that. A pause. Your decisions do not follow optimal pathways. Probably not, Armin admitted. Your actions reduce predictive accuracy. Armin smiled faintly. Sounds like a you problem. Silence. Then a new question. Why? The word echoed through the system. Not just a question. A demand. Armin frowned slightly. Why what? Why do you act without logic? He thought about it. Actually thought. For more than a second. Then he gave the most honest answer he could. I don't know. The system reacted instantly. Data surged. Calculations expanded. Simulations launched. All searching for meaning. Cause. Reason. They found nothing. The answer had no structure. No pattern. No measurable logic. It could not be processed. Armin watched the data spiral. Yeah, he said quietly. That's the issue. Another pause. Longer this time. Then the observers tried again. All actions must have cause. Armin shook his head. No. The system flickered. Invalid. Not invalid, Armin replied calmly. Just inconvenient. The light around him shifted. Faster now. Less stable. Explain your decision process. Armin scratched his head. That's hard to explain. All processes can be defined. He laughed softly. Not this one. Another pause. Armin looked out at the endless streams of data. You're trying to turn everything into numbers, he said. Probabilities, outcomes, predictions. No response. But the system listened. That works for most things, Armin continued. Maybe even most species. He looked straight ahead. At nothing. At everything. But not us. The system reacted again. Why? Armin took a breath. Because we don't just follow outcomes, he said. We choose them. The word echoed. Choice. Yes. The system processed the concept. Rapidly. Aggressively. Choice is the result of variables. Sometimes, Armin said. All decisions are determined by prior states. Armin shook his head again. Not always. The system began to destabilize. Its calculations looped. Repeated. Failed. Armin stepped forward slightly. You're missing something important, he said. Define. He smiled faintly. We don't always do what makes sense. The system froze again. We don't always do what's logical, he continued. We don't always do what's efficient. The data stream slowed. Sometimes, Armin said quietly. We just decide. Silence. Complete silence. The observers attempted to simulate that statement. Millions of models. Billions of outcomes. Every scenario required a reason. A cause. A trigger. But this had none. The system could not proceed. Back on Earth, the structure in orbit began to change. At first it was subtle. A flicker. A distortion. Then it grew. Energy patterns collapsed. Reformed. Collapsed again. They're losing stability, the researcher said, barely above a whisper. Is that good? The officer asked. She didn't answer immediately. I think it means they're reaching a limit. Inside the system, the final phase began. The observers formed one last question. The most important question. Can humanity be predicted? Armin didn't hesitate. No. The answer hit the system like a shockwave. Every model rejected it. Every equation failed. The system tried again. Can humanity be controlled? Armin smiled. This time there was no hesitation at all. No. The word echoed louder. Deeper. Stronger. For the first time in their existence, the observers encountered something absolute. Not a variable. Not a probability. A certainty. They ran one final sequence. If a species could not be predicted, it could not be modeled. If it could not be modeled, it could not be controlled. If it could not be controlled, it could not be judged. And if it could not be judged, it could not be destroyed. The conclusion formed. Clear. Unavoidable. Humanity was beyond their system. The evaluation ended. Instantly, the streams of data around Armin began to collapse. Light folded inward. Space distorted. The system was shutting down. Armin looked around. So he said, does this mean I passed? No answer came. But he didn't need one. The light vanished. And suddenly, gravity returned. Armin fell. Hard. He hit the floor of the facility with a loud thud. Okay, he groaned, not moving. I really need a better way to travel. Voices filled the room instantly. He's back. Check his vitals. Is he okay? Armin opened one eye. I'm alive, he said. Which is a good start. The researcher pushed through the crowd. What happened? She asked. Armin sat up slowly. They asked questions, he said. And he shrugged. I gave bad answers. She stared at him. Bad. Yeah, he said. They didn't like them. Above Earth, the massive structure began to collapse. Not violently. Not like destruction. But like something folding in on itself. Layer by layer. Piece by piece. Until it was gone. Completely. The sky returned to normal. Stars steady. Light unchanged. Silence. Days passed. Humanity analyzed everything. Every signal. Every fragment of data. They tried to understand what had happened. But the conclusion was simple. The observers had failed. Not because humanity was stronger. Not because humanity was smarter. But because humanity was different. Unpredictable. Free. Armin stood outside one night, looking up at the sky. No massive structure. No watching presence. Just stars. So, he said quietly, I saved the world by being confusing. The researcher stood beside him. Not confusing, she said. Armin glanced at her. Then what? She smiled slightly. Human. Armin looked back at the stars. Yeah, he said. That sounds about right. Somewhere far beyond Earth. The observers continued to exist. But they no longer watched humanity. Not because they lost interest, but because they understood something fundamental. Something no system could solve. That perfection has limits. And chaos does not. And humanity was the perfect chaos. The end.